Hey everyone, welcome back to another environment design tutorial. I am super excited about this tutorial. We are going to be creating this underground bunker completely from scratch. I'm going to show you guys every single step that I take. And almost all of these assets, 99.9% of these assets are completely free assets that you can get on Quixel on the marketplace. The only exception is this bunker door that I created in Blender and Substance Painter. I just couldn't find a good free bunker door, so I created one, and this will be available in the links below for Patreon subscribers. If you want to check out how to get access to that, just check out the Patreon, and it's a great way to support me. I also sell some assets on the marketplace. I will have a new survival horror asset pack that will be coming out soon. So you can check out the links below if you want to support me that way. But more than anything, it just means the world for you guys to be here and to follow along with me. I hope you're able to learn something and pick up some new tips and tricks. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know below. Feel free to join the Discord. I would love to see you guys your own environments. If you create something similar to this, please feel free to share it. And I always love seeing that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and let's make this environment. All right. All right, everyone, here we are. Before we actually start designing our environment, I want to just mention a couple of things that I'm going to be using. First of all, we are going to be using the Fab plugin. If you don't have that, or if you haven't installed that yet, or if you don't know how to install that, I did make a quick tutorial on how you can get that set up because we will be using this to download the Quixel assets. I am trying to basically make this environment with completely free assets. The only thing that I couldn't find was a bunker door. So I did create that in Blender and textured it in Substance Painter. And I made that available through Patreon. So you can check out the links below to get access to that if you want. But it's not a requirement at all to have that door. I just kind of wanted something that looked cool. And we might use it to actually put some functionality into it later. The other thing that I am going to be using is, go back to our level, under Tools, the Actor Palette. This is a plugin that I'm pretty sure this comes with Unreal Engine. You just have to activate it. So if you go to plugins, it's just called Actor Palette. You can just check that and then restart your project. And what this is a really cool little plugin that lets you open up a second window and basically just open up another level. And then you can take assets from the level and just drag them into your level. So it makes it a little bit easier to create things, especially if you're working from a pre-designed level that you are kind of using as reference a little bit. I'll show you how to use that in a little bit. Now, I've gone ahead and downloaded all of the assets that I want. The main things that I am going to be using are, where is it? This unfinished building, which I think I saw it. Yeah, it's right here. So the other thing that you can do, this is really annoying. I really wish that they would make this a little bit easier to get to the Quixel assets. But if you just search for Quixel, like if you don't see this, it'll probably change later on. But if you just find anything that is a Quixel asset, you click on that. And then if you go up here and click on Quixel, it will actually sort everything by just Quixel assets now. So then you can see what all you have access to through Quixel. So we are going to be using the unfinished building. So you can get that, just click on add to project there. It's a pretty big download, so I went ahead and downloaded it beforehand. Some of the other assets that I am using are If we go into here, show all of our static meshes. You can see what I have here. I don't have a lot, and we're probably not even going to use all of these. Make these thumbnails bigger so that you can see what I have. These names are terrible. Like, I don't know why they're just gibberish here. It would make it a lot easier if they would actually call them or name all of these. But I'm going to just show you guys what I have here. It's mostly just containers, you know, just like a chair, like some electrical things. I found some pipes. We've got some lighting type things here. Some more electrical things. Really, I was just trying to look at, you know, just anything that I thought might be relevant for a bunker. I did also just look at some reference images. I kind of knew roughly what I'm wanting, but, you know, something kind of really dirty, really rough walls, lots of debris on the ground, very kind of creepy looking, is the kind of vibe that I'm going with here. So it's always good to get reference images. Even if you kind of know what you're wanting, it's just helpful to have some references to just keep the vision in check there. All right, so again, I downloaded, these are all fab assets, so you should be able to get all of these for free. If you just go back to where you're sorted by just the Quixel assets, you can look through, you know, you can sort through, let's see, 3D models. Then if you look at maybe like tools and objects, you know, here's the pipes, some ropes, cardboard boxes, things like that. Anyway, I'm not going to go through all of that because it'll take kind of a long time, and this tutorial is probably already going to have to split up into multiple parts. So let's go ahead and get started by creating a new level. And we're just going to create an empty level here. We're going to start completely from scratch. And I'm going to start with a floor. Now, I guess the other thing that we can do is, actually before we start with our floor, is let's take a look at this map that they have for this unfinished building, because this will be helpful just to maybe get some ideas of the assets that we have to use. So you can see I went ahead and brought the door in here just to kind of get an idea, to make sure it kind of fit with the overall aesthetics that I was looking for, and I think it works quite well. But this is really helpful to see just kind of how they're laying out some things. You will notice that they're using a lot of these types of 3D scanned assets that they are just placing on the floor, and they work really, really well. They really blend into the environment well, especially over here. You can see how good this stuff looks. These steps, you know, all of this stuff is just these 3D models that they are just kind of layering in here, and they work really well. So we'll definitely utilize some of this. They also have a lot of just kind of loose debris lying around here. Now, it's kind of crazy. I think all of these, yeah, looks like they kind of hand placed all of these. I'm going to show you guys a little bit better way to do this. We can actually use the foliage mode to basically just paint things on like that. I think that that is a little bit easier. Now, one other thing that I want to note is this scene is not super well optimized. I mean, there is a lot going on here, but as you can see, we're only getting around 70 FPS. Now, again, they have a lot going on here, but when I go over here, like, our FPS really drops down. So it'll be interesting to see if we can maybe kind of improve that. I think that we can. This is a great looking environment, though. I really like how you can see what's going on here. You can see how they are doing. This is actually very interesting. it looks like they're just using cylinders here, and then they're just using a glass material. So we can probably utilize that. Looks like this is just some wire that they have. We will definitely use that. I really love just what they're doing over here. Again, with all of these kind of hand-placed assets. This is pretty time consuming, but as you can see, the result is really well done, except for the optimization, which we'll work on that. We've got just some individual things laid out here. So, okay, this is good. Okay, so let's go ahead and create a new level, empty level, and let's go ahead and save current level as. We'll save it into my content maps, and we will just call this bunker. Now, like I said, I want to start with the floor. We could, let's see, where are the actual assets? Let's sort by static mesh. We could grab some of the floor planes that they have for us in here, but I'm just going to go ahead and create our own. And the reason I want to create our own is I just want to have a little bit more control over what we're creating. And I also want to show you guys how to use Vertex Painting. This is something that is super useful, and it's been around for a long time, but I haven't really seen any great tutorials on it, specifically with the Megascans materials that have been updated with Fab. I believe they are done a little bit differently. So I will show you guys how to use those. The first thing that we need to do is just create a plane for our floor. So we're going to go into the modeling mode, and we're going to click on rectangle here. And I'm just going to go ahead and place that down there. Now, what's very important for Vertex Painting, and actually let me back up a little bit and just kind of explain what Vertex Painting is for anybody that doesn't know. Vertex Painting allows us to have a single material that has multiple layers of different textures. So we might have a material with 3 different textures or 3 different texture sets, such as, in this case, we might have something that's like kind of a smooth floor-looking material. We might have another material that's like a little bit more rocky texture, and then maybe another material that is like a debris texture. And we can fit all of that into one material, and then we can use something called Vertex Painting, which allows us to paint or essentially erase that top layer and reveal the second layer to where it looks like there are that other texture is coming through, and then we can use the Vertex Painting to uncover the third layer as well, so that we can blend all of these together. And then I believe they even have a puddle layer built in, so this is really great to use if you want to have like some wet spots, which I think will be really or look really good for kind of our creepy underground bunker that we want to do. So what's very important for Vertex Painting is to have a plane, or whatever you're painting on, needs to have enough actual vertexes to paint on, because this might be getting a little too advanced for our purposes here, but it's important to understand if we create a plane like this, there's only 4 vertexes right now. And let's see, can I actually show that? Yeah, here we go. So here's what our wireframe looks like. So we only have a vertex in each corner, and then all meshes are created out of triangles. So it splits that in half, and we have 2 triangles. Now, this is very, 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 very low poly, which is great for performance. But in our case, we want to have more vertexes, more triangles, so that we can paint and have more detail. So you can change the number of subdivisions here. So if I were to do something like 5 subdivisions, on the width and the depth, you can see that that adds more vertexes in here, and that will allow us to add more detail. But we really need more than this. I would recommend probably something like 20 by 20, maybe even more than that. Maybe let's try 40 by 40. I think that's going to look pretty good. And we also, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's do 400 by 400. Now, another really important thing to do when we are building these environments is make sure that we are keeping track of our scale. So right now, I have no idea kind of what the scale is from here. Now, I know roughly because I've worked with Unreal Engine for a while, and I know what 400 by 400 is like. But if I don't have some kind of reference in here to what the size of a normal human is, this could be the size of an ant, or it could be the size of, you know, a giant mountain. We just don't really know. So what is often very useful is to just grab a static mesh from a character or from one of these mannequins. So I'm going to go under characters. I have characters here because we're working with the third person template. If you don't have the characters, you can go to add right here. Go to add features content and add the third person pack here. And then you'll get access to that. But I'm just going to grab one of these mannequins here, drag that out into our environment. And now we can kind of see what the scale is like here a little bit better. So I think that looks pretty good for me. So let's go ahead and accept that. And now I'm going to hit Shift 1 to go back to selection mode. And now we have a plane that we can use as our floor plane. Now, it is important to think about, in terms of optimization, this is a pretty high poly mesh that we have here. Now, Unreal Engine is super advanced. Most modern computers are going to be able to handle this without any issue. Can probably handle hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of these meshes. But we don't ever want to just use high poly geometry where we don't need it. So while we're going to use this for the floor, we might not want to use it for like the ceiling or the walls or anything like that, where a much lower poly mesh would be fine. So I hope that makes sense. The other thing that I like to do is I like to just zero out the location here. And I just like to start at 0, 0, 0. And let's also just drag our little guy here for reference. I'm just going to set him down here. I'm just going to pull him above and hit the end key just to drop him right onto the mesh. And now we can just use that as reference. I'm also going to turn our snapping on and set the increment to 100. All right, so what I want to do here is I want to make kind of like a little entrance room with a little side room over here. And then we're going to have another door here and then kind of a long hallway. So let's just go ahead and start adding some stuff. Actually, before we get too far, let's go ahead and add a material on here. So let's go back to the unfinished building and let's take a look at the materials that they have here. Okay, so we got a couple of different layer surfaces here. I think these are going to work well. Let's just go ahead and drag this on, take a look at that. I think that looks pretty good, but we're in unlit mode, by the way, and I can change that by going up here to lit or unlit. Actually, it said that we were in lit mode, but we were in unlit. I'm not really sure why it said lit. The other thing that I can do is just hold Alt and press 3 or press 4. Alt 3 is unlit, Alt 4 is lit. What I often like to do is just add in what I call construction lights. So while I'm building, I will just grab a point light and just drag it in here, go back to lit mode, and now we can see just what the lighting is going to look like a little bit better. I don't really worry about the settings or anything at this point. I really just want a real light in here just to kind of give me an idea of what the materials are going to look like. Now, the other thing that I can already see that we need to do is we need to add a post-process volume. So let's go ahead and get that in here. And I'm just going to move this. This doesn't matter where we put that. I'm just going to move it off to the side. And we need to go to, we need to search for infinite, extent, unbound. Check that. That will make any adjustments that we do here will take place in the entire level instead of just taking place inside the box there. And I want to turn off this auto exposure. So we can do that by scrolling down to where we find exposure. And we're going to check the first 3 boxes here. And then we're going to uncheck the apply physical camera exposure. And then we're going to change this to manual. Now we have full control of our exposure. And then, of course, we can change the intensity of the lights here as well. Okay, so let's take a look at these other materials. See what this one looks like. Okay. Okay, so that one looks like pretty much the same thing. I think we're going to use this one, which is the layer surface 2. Now, I'm going to go ahead and kind of show you the Vertex Painting. If we go to the selection mode here and choose Mesh Paint, what we can do is you need to make sure that the mesh that you're going to paint on is selected, first of all. And then if you go to Paint here, you will have a little paintbrush here. And you'll notice that we have different channels here. And all 3 of these are checked. So we have red, green, and blue. And the way that these work is each channel represents a different layer in this. And if we actually open up this material instance, we can take a look at what we have here. So under global, you can see that these are all turned on. So we have a base layer, a middle layer, and a top layer. And then we also have a puddle layer. And I'm pretty sure that the puddle layer is on blue. So let's just see. Okay. So you have to be careful here. Make sure that you're painting with the right color. You can swap the color here. We're using a mask here. Again, this could get, we could go into a bunch of different subjects here. I'm trying to stay focused on the main things here. But a mask is basically just a white or a black, mask or, color on top of your texture. And then we can paint over that by switching between white and black. So if we have a black mask, we can paint white to reveal that. Or if we have a white mask, we can paint black to reveal that. Now, in this case, you can swap between the two by clicking on this little button here. You can also just press X, the letter X, and that will let you switch between painting and erasing, okay? So we have the ability to switch between these to paint different layers on here. Now, we can also adjust some things like the size. We can adjust the strength. We can adjust the fall off. So the fall off and strength are very good for something like puddles here. We might want to have like a really low fall off and maybe a really low strength. That's actually still pretty high. And let's make this a little bit bigger. So now you can see if I just kind of lightly tap my mouse, it's going to come in kind of soft. And then if I hold my mouse, we're going to paint more and more and more. Now, you kind of just have to experiment, or if you can remember what the different layers are. But I believe, let's see, if we have blue and green selected, actually maybe just green. Let me just undo that. Yeah, so green is a different layer there. Red is probably the top layer. Yeah, so red is just our top layer here. Green is slightly different texture there. And then blue is our puddle layer. Okay. So I'm not going to do too much with that right now, but we are probably going to use that, especially the puddles, I think will look good to have some areas with that. But I just wanted to show you guys how that works. The other thing that you can do is if we paint some puddles in here, something like this, we can adjust some of the parameters here by bringing our material instance, and each one of these has controls. So if we look at our puddle layer, we can control things like the opacity. So if we kind of change this, as you can see, that's going to change the way the opacity looks. The roughness, if we wanted it to be, 0 is, if we set it to 0, that's going to be kind of shiny looking and more reflective. As you go up closer to 1, that's going to be more flat. You can kind of just play around with these. For the most part, the default values are going to be pretty good, but some things are useful. We have the fall off here. You can see the edges. This is really useful. You can kind of control the way the fall off on the edges is, or the way that works. But anyway, we could spend forever looking at this. I just want to kind of give you guys a brief overview of what's going on here so that you can play around with that. And it's a very useful way of having, an environment like this that you have multiple textures in one single material. So for right now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to just erase all of that so that we just have our base texture on top, or I guess our top layer on top. Okay, so I'm going to go with this as our base floor, and I'm going to just kind of create a quick little hallway here, maybe kind of like that. And then I want to create like a little entrance area that I will maybe have 2 squares. By the way, I'm holding Alt. Hold Alt and then select this and then drag it out. That will automatically copy those, which is very useful and saves a lot of time. I think that is good for now. We'll probably change some things, but let's just kind of get some walls in here to start seeing what things look like. So what I want to do is, actually we can open up our actor palette. We can go ahead and take a look at that. And now if we choose the industrial unfinished building, I mean, you could choose anything here, but that's the one that we want to kind of look at. Then now you can see that this opens that level, and then I can literally just click on anything like that, and I can drag it into our environment very quickly. So again, this is super helpful. Like, we can go over here and we can say, okay, I'd like to get that. Maybe I want this barrel. Maybe this pallet. So I can quickly grab these things here. It's also just helpful for reference. We can see, like, I am kind of curious what these walls are like. Got those. I don't need any of the windows. I think we'll use these stairs, but I don't think we'll use them right now. You can also, while you're in this level, you can switch back and forth between your different view modes. Make it a little bit easier. Let's take a look at the ceiling. Now, this ceiling, as you can see, for some reason, sometimes the materials don't come with the mesh when you drag it in. So that's not super helpful. I'm not really sure why that happens, but we can always just find that material and apply it ourselves. And guys, please forgive me. I've been having a little bit of a coughing fit, so I just grabbed a cough drop. If my voice sounds a little bit different, that's fine. So I'm sorry if I'm coughing a little bit. Still getting over a little bit of a cold that I've had. All right, so I'm going to move this just on my second monitor, just so I can see this a little bit better. And the other thing that I want to get is I'm going to grab my door that I created and go ahead and put this kind of in place where I want it to be. Now, I want to have two doors here. I want to have one as an entrance and then one as kind of an entrance into this hallway. And I think what I will do is I'm going to change my snapping here. I'm going to just align these roughly where I want them. Okay, something like that. Put one of these on each side. Another thing that is really important to think about is think about the bigger details first whenever you're designing your environments. Don't think about, you know, where we're going to place this brick or where we're going to place this barrel, those kind of things. Just focus on the big things first, and then we can focus on smaller things, and then we can finally finish out with little details like the lighting, little pieces of debris, that kind of stuff. Now let's go ahead and get some walls in here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab some stuff from the starter content. Again, if you don't have the starter content, you can add that right here. Add features or content, and go to content and then just add the starter content. Really, this, I mean, it has some great stuff in it, but really all I need is under architecture. We have, let's see, we have some walls with doors. That might be a little too high. I think that's pretty good. Because I want there to be another little entrance right here. Okay, roughly there. Nothing is really set in stone. I'm just kind of placing things, and we'll figure out where we want to actually have them later. I'm going to use these 400 by 300 walls, I think. Looks like those will fit pretty well. So let's just put those there. And let's actually put them right in the corner here. Okay. Change this to 10. And let's first of all see, let's see what the materials are going to look like here. Let's take a look at the materials that we have. I'm going to just click on this, and then I can find that material there. So another thing that you can do, you see that I have all of these tabs here. You can find those by clicking on this little thing here, and then you can choose whatever you want as sort of like a shortcut. So I have some common ones that I use, especially like static meshes, material instances. That's what I'm looking for. Let's see if I search for wall. There we go. Okay, let's see what we have. Let's just drag these out and see. Okay, I don't like that. Don't like that. Don't like that. That's a little bit more what I'm looking for. That's not bad. That's pretty good. I like that. Kind of like that too. Ooh, that might be a winner. Yeah, I'm kind of torn between those two. Let's go with this one for right now. We can always change that later. But I do like that quite a bit. Let me see what it looks like on this. I think the other one... I think this might match this a little bit better. And I kind of like how grungy it is too. That's a tough choice. Let's, for right now, I think I'm going to go with this. And let me just see what it looks like on here. One thing that I don't like about this is it doesn't really seem to match this. But what we can do is we can find... Actually, if we go back here, it might be easier to find something like this. I'm just looking for, like, what are they using here? That might be the same things that they're using there. Yeah, I think it is. Let's see if they have some kind of beams. Maybe these. Yeah, I think this might work. I often like to use beams, or they can just be regular blocks and you can just put a texture on there, but something to kind of break up the corners. And also when we create our hallway here, let's go ahead and drag these out. Actually, I want to have a couple of doorways in here. Let's put one right here. Whoops. Let's see, something is not right. Don't know how that happens. Okay, so our geometry is a little off here. What I'm going to do is I want to get this exact location. So I'm going to hold shift, and over here I'm going to right click. That will copy that exact location. And then if I click on this and hold shift and left click, it will snap that to that exact location. And then I can just drag this out so that it is perfectly aligned. That's a little bit easier than trying to go in here and manually lining that up. All right, now Let's go one more there. And over here. I think we'll put another doorway right about there. And then we'll do a final doorway down here at the ends. Okay, something like that. I'm also just going to go ahead and drag our floor to where these are going to be little rooms here. Okay. Oh, I see what happened. This wasn't actually on the grounds. That's why it was slightly off. Just set that to 0. And let me see if I just paste that material on there. I think that's pretty good. And what we might do is just drag this out and do something kind of like this. Again, just to kind of break things up. I just don't like things being, you know, perfectly symmetric. I wonder what this material looks like on this beam. Okay, I kind of like that. I think that that blends in a little bit better. I think that works pretty good. Now let's look at, or let's think about a ceiling. Let's browse to the asset here and let's see. We have a floor, we have a wall. Probably the floor will work fine. Let's just set that to 0. Drag it up. Okay, let's go ahead and drag our lights down so where they're to where they are below the floor, or below the ceiling, excuse me. And I think what we'll do is fill this gap right here with one of these. So I'm just copying that out, making a duplicate. And I'm going to just resize it just slightly here. Maybe we go in. A lot of this is really just kind of moving things around, just seeing what feels right, seeing what feels weird, if anything feels off, or, you know, if anything just doesn't feel right. Just making little adjustments on the way. The other thing that we want to do here is just actually go in the environment, walk around, just see how things feel. It's also good just to be able to check collision on things. Whoa, what just happened there? I don't know where the camera went. Let's open this door up. Let me make sure that I can walk through here. Okay. So that looks good. I think I want to make this a little bit wider. Maybe kind of like that. Let's grab a wall. Oops. And I'm just going to grab the location of this wall. So shift, right click, and then I'm going to paste it onto that just so I can get those aligned. And doesn't really have to be perfect because it's kind of hidden behind this, but it can make things a little bit easier just to keep things aligned, even if you can't see them. And I'm also, for the time being, I'm going to just move this stuff out of the way. Maybe just move it over to there. Okay. Let me grab our guy here. Just make a duplicate just so we kind of get a feel of this, of the size of this environment. I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna extend this wall. And let's extend all three of these to something like that. And we also want our wall to go out this way. Okay, again, that doesn't feel lined up, so I'm just going to grab the position of this, paste that there, and then pull it out till it is perfectly aligned. Okay. And I think I might want to make this room a little bit bigger. And we'll just close it in here. Now, I'm not worrying too much about, you know, things like this kind of not being perfectly aligned on areas that I'm not going to see. If you are creating a level that, you know, maybe this is going to be a series of rooms, or maybe your level is going to come back around this way, you might want to think about that a little bit more. For the time being, though, I am not worrying about that. We're mainly just worrying about the areas that we will be able to see. So the next thing I'm going to do is just kind of close this in. Actually, let's go ahead and put a material on here. Let's see what we have. If we go back to our unfinished building, let me just search for ceiling. And I'm going to sort just by material instances. And let's just take a look at this. So we can adjust the scaling on things. If we open up the material instance, this is obviously way too many, or way too highly tiled. So we can change that. What you do need to be careful with is you can't do something like, let's say 0.6 and 0.6. Your materials are not going to tile correctly then. If I find this and go ahead and apply to these others. Oops. Then you can see here there's a clear seam there. So you need to either have it at 0.5 by 0.5 should work, or 1 by 1, or 2 by 2. I think 0.25 by 0.25 should work as well. Yeah, that works. So you just kind of have to play around, just get an idea of what feels good. I think that looks pretty good. We could look at some of these other materials, but I'm pretty happy with the way that looks. Let's see. Just quickly looking at these other ones to see if there's anything that I like. I do kind of like that. That looks pretty rough. That's not bad. That is really highly tiled. Yeah, I think I like what we got here. First one that we got. So let's just go with that for right now. We can always change it later. Now let's go ahead and just copy all of these and just go ahead and fill in everywhere else. So we really only need ceilings, just one copy of them here. I think that is covering all of that. Okay. looks pretty good. And now we need to just copy what we have over here. Basically, we'll just kind of mirror it. And let's just grab one of these. Now, I don't really want to copy exactly what I have. I want it to look a little bit different. So I'm just going to see what this looks like if we do something kind of like this. I think I like that. Also, I'm just going to close the actor palette because I have like way too much stuff open right now. My computer is struggling a little bit. I think I'm going to push these in just a little bit as well. Okay. It looks like we have something. What is this saying? Maps bunker does not exist. Well, that seems like a problem. Let's save it and see if we have that error. So I think what might be going on here is you just try to update our references. References look good. Well, I'm also going to change our scalability here to high. That was probably part of the reason why my computer was lagging a little bit. I do not know why that is saying that bunker does not exist. The only thing that I can think of is I created... I had to restart the tutorial at one point, and I had already created a blank level called bunker, and then I deleted it. I'm going to just quickly close down the project and restart it, just to see if that kind of flushes that out and make sure everything is good. So I will be right back. Okay, I am back, and I believe everything is good now. I think that was the problem. I had created a level earlier. It was called bunker, and then I erased it. And then I created a new level that's called bunker, and it was just getting confused. But I just restarted, and we are all good. So right now, we have kind of our basic layout, and I think it looks pretty good. Eventually, we will kind of fill in the areas in here. But for right now, we're going to just focus on this little entryway. Now, again, I'm not focused on lighting at all right now. We have really just kind of finished part one, which is the main architecture. And now I want to focus on adding not small details, but some of the larger details. So let's check out what we have. Let's go to Fab. I'm going to just sort by static mesh so that we can see everything that we have. I know I want to get this little group of electrical boxes. Kind of place this in the corner here. Something kind of like that. I think over here, let's see, what do we have? Let's grab this little set of lockers here. I'm going to just turn our snapping off for the moment. And I like to always turn my snapping off, and I like to just add just like a tiny bit of rotation on things like this, because, you know, most people, especially in a bunker like this, things are not going to be perfectly straight, right? So you want to have things just turned a little bit, or maybe things are leaning a little bit. Just because you don't want them to be perfect. It's one of those things where you actually don't want your scene to be perfect. Now, I think that we also need something on the ceiling because it's a bit bland, and we need something to kind of break it up. So I think there are some, well, actually we had them right here, but let's just browse to that, and let's just sort by static mesh so that we can see all that we have access to. So yeah, let's get some of these beams. I don't know if I actually added that or not. Oh yeah, I did. Nope, I don't think I did. Yeah, okay. So let's... Oh, now I'm going to turn my snapping back on because I do want that. So there's no particular rhyme or reason about how I'm doing this. It's really just kind of a feel. Just whatever I, you know, feel like would look right. This is definitely where reference can come in handy. But really, it's just, for me at least, it's more of a feel. I'm sure there are some people that like to have, you know, reference, and don't get me wrong, having a good reference is very important a lot of times. But for this, I'm just going by feel for the most part. I am going to lower the level of my lights here because it is way too bright in here, which is not necessarily a bad thing while we're kind of working on the construction part. But I do just want to get a little bit, right now anyway, I want to start getting a little bit better feel of what the ambience is going to be like. I'm also just going to change the source radius, just give it a tiny bit of size so that we don't have those super harsh shadows. And already that is looking a lot better. The other thing that you can do, and I would definitely recommend doing, is creating camera angles. So what I want to do is, I'm mainly just kind of thinking about this camera angle right here. And what you can do is you can save camera angles. So if I hold Control, and then if I hit a number, so I'm going to hit Control 1, it will now save that location as a bookmark. And then at any point, wherever my camera is, I can be all the way over here. I can just press 1 and it will just snap back to that camera angle. So I could, you can set that up for multiple angles. So, you know, maybe we could have one over here as well, maybe kind of low to the grounds. So I could hold Control and set that as 2. So now I have 1, I have 2, and maybe we do like one more over here. Let's go ahead and delete our mannequin because we really only needed that for kind of the initial layouts. But let's set that as Control 3. So now we have 1, 2, and 3 for our camera angles. So those are really helpful just to quickly kind of see what our environment is looking like. Now, I also feel like we need another beam over here just to kind of break some stuff up, because this wall just looks a little too plain and boring. And I'm still not sure if I love the textures that we're using on those. But we'll go for it. We'll go with it for right now. Okay. So I think that's looking pretty good. Let's see what other assets we have. Back to Fab. I know I want some of these barrels. Oh, they actually, I think they were in here, weren't they? Yeah, let's go ahead and just kind of drag some of these out. I'm just kind of looking through what we have that are kind of medium-sized assets, not really small things. I also wonder if I want to use this. I kind of feel like I want to use this over that other texture that we have. Yeah, I think I do. Especially for this one. That one just feels right to me. I can't really even describe what it is. I think it's just because it looks too similar to the other textures here. And again, our lighting is way too bright. You know, we're going to go for something probably more like around here in terms of lighting. But for right now, I want just a little bit of light because, like I said, this is really just more of a construction light. All right, let's see what else. I know that we are going to want some of these things. So I might go ahead and bring some of these in. Probably you're going to want some of these. Let's also just drag those up, press in so that they are sitting on the ground. Not going to worry too much about these right now because those are going to be very small details. What is this? A lamp? We might use that. I know I have some other lamps in the fab folder. Might use a palette. And I think these are just like cardboard boxes. Let's just spread them out so that we know what we have. Okay, those are good. I really need... let's see. I'm going to create a little platform outside for us to set some of the stuff so that we can see what we have. Again, this could be a good reason to use the actor palette. I'm not using it nearly as much as I normally would here. Really because I normally would have that open on my second screen and you guys can't see my second screen. So it doesn't really help in terms of a tutorial as much. But that is a really great plugin that makes things easier. Okay. I think that is good. So, I also want to put one of these over here. Again, I just kind of want to break up this wall. Anything that just is like a long, flat wall starts to look a little boring to me. Again, we can switch to our camera angles here. Okay. And while we're doing this, I'm going to go ahead and add some of these in here. Just kind of spaced out roughly like that. Oh, I don't think I actually copied one there. Maybe one more. Okay, that's starting to look good. So as you can see, I personally think that just looks a lot better than just having these empty walls. Or not really empty walls, but just these flat walls that, you know, there's nothing that's really breaking them up. This just gives it a little bit more definition and makes it feel a little bit more realistic looking to me. Again, that kind of stuff I think is where references really come in handy. So don't be afraid to use references for that kind of stuff there. Okay, that definitely does not work. Again, like I said earlier, we may switch some of that stuff, and as you can see, we are switching some of that stuff now. So I think I am liking this kind of two-tone to look a little bit more. A lot of this stuff is just kind of trying things and just seeing what works, you know? Okay. Looks like we need to make that a little bit longer. Let's go ahead and replace these as well. Yeah, I think I'm liking that quite a bit more now. Just looking at my camera angles. Okay. I might, I don't want to get too detail focused right now, but I am just curious. Let's see. Do we not have scaling options in here? Huh, that's interesting. Doesn't look like there are scaling options. Okay, well, again, don't get too focused on the little details. We'll take a look at that later. I think it's fine for right now. The other thing that I want to use, I believe there is, yeah, there's a wire blueprint in here. This is going to be really useful because we can use it for, well, we can use it for wire. And this little things like this really add a lot of detail to the scene. And the cool thing about this is a spline. And if you've never used a spline before, splines are often used for things that are set up to be kind of like in a straight line like this. But what you can do is if you click on the actual blueprint here, and this is a blueprint, so there are some things that you can configure, but we're not going to worry about that right now. But if you can see, it's kind of hard to see here. There's a little thing that we can click on here. If I click on that twice, then I have a new gizmo here. Now, this doesn't really do anything, but if I hold Alt, I can drag out a new segment there. And then what I can do is actually bend this, and I can do this a couple of different ways. So I can bend it like this. I can also, again, this is very hard to see, but if you see this little thing here, each segment has these little areas that can be bent, and this is usually best to turn off your snapping there. So we can bend things around. We can kind of bend it like this, pull it down. And again, at any point, I can just kind of drag this out to a new area. So we will create like a little wire up here that is going to our light, which, speaking of lights, let's go ahead and add that in. Now we did find this one. What I am kind of envisioning is something a little bit smaller. I found something like this, I think is more like what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in. I think we're going to use this. I also think I'm going to change the scaling of this. It looks a little too long. This is a pretty low ceiling here. So I'm going to do something just kind of like that. And then I'm going to just move this to where it looks like it's going into that. And I'm not going to worry about getting the spline set up perfectly right now. But what I will eventually want to do is, I think, kind of wrap it around here and then hook it into the electrical box. because I always want to think about, you know, what makes sense in a scene. So a lot of times you see, especially in small indie games, people will place a light like this, but then there won't be any kind of electrical work going to that. And little things like that really make a big difference, in my opinion. You might have not even really think about it when you see it, but there is just something about it that, you know, you almost subconsciously see those kind of things. And when things make more sense like that, then the scene looks better. Okay. So, let's start looking at some other details. Now we have all these pipes. I definitely want to do something with that. I think we might have like some kind of electrical conduit that we would have running in here. So we could do something like this. Okay, now these are, I mean, they are textured, but I don't like the texture. It's really just kind of a very boring looking gray. So we'll look at changing that. That shouldn't be too hard. I also think I'm going to do maybe a second one. Something kind of like that. And I do need to bring them down just a little bit. Actually, so I want to select all of these, but I don't have them all selected. And I don't really want to just go through and select them like this. So if I see what the name is called. Again, I don't know why these are just random names, but I can just find them in the outliner and select everything pretty quickly like that. Anytime you can kind of think of things that save you time is a good thing. You always want to try and be efficient when you're creating your environments because they can really start to take a long time. So let's think about the texture for this. This just looks like a gray plastic, and that doesn't really make sense for this environment that we're in. So let's go and look at Fab. I'm going to look specifically at Quixel assets. So again, we'll search for Quixel, find a Quixel asset, click on Quixel, and now I can look at materials and textures. And let's specifically search for like a metal. All right, so maybe let's look at this scratched metal. That looks pretty good. Let's see what this scratch sandblasted. That looks pretty good. I think I like that. Let's just add that to library. And I can already tell this is going to be too bright, but we'll change that. So again, I'm going to select all of these and apply that material to it. And that looks way better, but it's way too silvery. I'm thinking, or at least I'm imagining something that looks more kind of darker. So let's adjust this material. Let's open that up by double clicking on it. And let's find, excuse me, the base color. And we should just be able to maybe even just lower this. Yeah, that's much more like what I'm looking for. Kind of like what I am envisioning. Maybe even like a little bit of a brown. Don't want it to look too gold looking. Yeah, okay. That looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and save that. Now, let's think about where else we might want to have some pipes. I think let's have a pipe over here. I'm going to grab this and just kind of move this into place. Pull it up above the ground hit end to put it right on the ground. And then we'll kind of carefully place this a little bit better. So let's look at our other sections of pipe that we have. I think I want to have maybe a section of pipe running down this way. Something kind of like this. And then let's use this. And I want to get that on top of this. So I'm going to shift right click to get the position, and shift left click to snap that there. And then I can be assured that that is at the exact same position, and then just kind of put that somewhere where I want it. Go ahead and apply that material to it as well. Find that material and just apply that. And then maybe we do, let's see. Let's find these again. Let's get, this little 90-degree angle piece that we have. Let's see if I can snap this to that, see what that does for helping us get things lined up. Okay, do something like that. Again, let's apply the material. Okay. And now I think what we'll do is just move our pipe up. And what I'm already thinking about is, you know how I showed you the Vertex painting? So what I think would make sense is this could be a pipe that could be leaking. So we could paint some water down here, which would look pretty good, I think. We could do that in some other areas as well. So just trying to think about little things like that that will help add to the immersion. It's always a good idea. Okay, so let's do something kind of like this. And I'm going to move this up to where it will kind of intersect that. And then I'm going to grab these two pipes and just add a little bit of length to them. Technically, we are stretching them a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that because you're not going to notice that. And then let's try and line these up. Okay. So maybe what we do here, whoops. Let's actually just drag these all the way over. Now, I don't really know how realistic that is that would go through that. I guess you could drill a hole through there. Those are some things to think about when you're designing these environments. Just think about, how things would realistically work. I don't think too many people are going to notice that or really it's going to be an issue, but if that was something that was going to be seen a little bit more, I might give that some more thought. But I think we will be fine here. Okay, I do kind of wish that we had like some little connectors. I might try and find something like that so that I could, put like a little connector right here to hide any of these areas. And if you're trying to adjust something like this and you can't really get it where you need it. There's a couple of things you can do. You can change the increments to where those are snapping right here. You could, of course, turn the snapping off. One thing I often do is I just go over here and I just slide my mouse, click and slide my mouse a little bit. That gives you a little bit more fine-tune adjustment, and I think that will work. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of finish this out here. This kind of stuff can be quite time-consuming, but it really does add a lot to your environment, I think. Maybe we do a second row of pipe, or maybe even a bigger pipe. Whoa, not sure what happened there. This may or may not look good. Just trying things. I think I like that. We'll go with it for right now. Okay. And then we may even do another pipe over here. I'm just going to copy those, make these bigger. My main goal with this is just to try and split up the like the monotony and the simplicity of the geometry in here. I want it to look like, this is a real thing that someone built and would, actually have pipes and electrical conduit and things like that. Okay. I think that might be a little too big. Again, so much of it to me is just finding what, feels right. If you're working off reference, again, that can help a lot. I think that looks pretty good. I don't think we need that one. Okay. I think that is looking pretty good. So let's maybe start, well, let's see. This is still kind of a medium-sized detail. I'm going to just move a barrel over here. Move this barrel in here. And now I want to start thinking about the floor. So I like this a lot. I think this will really blend well. So what I'm kind of imagining here is the corners are probably going to be, built up a lot of debris in those areas. So that's kind of where I'm thinking that the majority or kind of the larger amounts of things are going to be. But I also think that this is just going to be a very kind of dirty, dusty environment in general. So I'm not going to be afraid to just kind of add a bunch of stuff in here, change the size of things. And a lot of it is just, just trying things, just seeing what feels right. I really like the way this stuff blends in. I think it works really well. Okay. So just going back to our camera angle, liking that quite a bit. Definitely need some more over here. Oh, I also see that we have a little bit of a gap there. Might just add something like this in. Okay. All right, now let's see what else we have. This is, or maybe this is a little bit bigger debris. This is kind of what I'm imagining for the corners. I think we'll need to scale this down a little bit. Somewhere around there. Oh yeah, that looks great. Boy, these mega scans really are just, they are incredible assets. Being able to have access to them for these kind of projects is really just a huge, huge help. Okay. Just try and think about, you know, where stuff would collect. At least that's what I'm trying to think about. Okay, that is already looking really good, I think. I think we might have some more maybe over here. I even kind of like what's happening with the boxes here. You could definitely see how some of this stuff could be kind of covered up by all this dirt. So I kind of like just the look of that. It all blends really well. Maybe we put something over here. And just take your time whenever you're placing these assets. I often just listen to some music or maybe watch a show or something while I'm working. This kind of stuff doesn't necessarily require a lot of brain power. It's you know, it's just really just all about the feel to me. I think I'm gonna just angle this just a tad. Okay. Yeah, that's looking great. I don't think I want that. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete that. Maybe some of these larger things. Just kind of add over here. No right or wrong way to do this. Doing these kind of things, I don't know if you guys ever watched Bob Ross. He's always been a huge inspiration for me. I just think about happy little trees. In this case, happy little bricks. The most important thing to me is just to make things try and feel natural, and especially not feel like they are hand placed, right? So just taking your time to place things that feel like it would make sense, feel like it's kind of lived in. That's the important part. And the beautiful thing with all of this is it's just so easy to just move things, change things around. You can do all that very, very easily. Okay, so let's start looking at some more kind of smaller things here. So I'm thinking maybe a tank just over here. And I feel like this would be kind of just thrown in the corner here. And some of these containers are good. Ooh, definitely like these lights. Again, even with these, I don't really even want to have the snapping on for those. Because if it looks too perfect, then it looks hand-placed, you know? So if it's 0.1 degree off, that's totally fine to me. If anything, that just looks better. All right, let's just always remember to save. And I would like, let's have something right here. I feel like, I don't know what this is, but it just feels like there should be some kind of an electrical box or something here. Kind of like so. And again, what we want to do is, you know, since this is an electrical box, we want to have an electrical wire to it. So let's always think about those kind of things. Maybe something over here as well. Actually, I don't really like that. That doesn't really fit the environment to me. It feels a little out of place. All right, I'm just going to add some of these containers up here. Maybe something like this. Just drag them up, press ends to snap them down, and then just kind of turn them a little bit. I don't want anything too bright that's going to stand out. I want these to just really be subtle. Just, you know, like you would probably store some stuff up here. Maybe even this would be something that got knocked over. Now for this, I'm pressing end, and okay, it wasn't snapping. I'm guessing that's because the collision was probably just getting hit there. And you can even see it didn't snap all the way down. So just take your time. Place these to where they make sense. And again, just going back to our camera angles, just making sure that things are looking good and looking like what we want it to look like. And I think this is looking great. I do want to have a little bit more over here. Okay. I feel like this area looks a little weird. Like it kind of makes sense that we would have a little bit of a path here. People would be walking through, but this kind of stands out to me a little bit. So I'm going to just move something in here. I think this is way too big, actually. I really love the way these cardboard boxes are looking too. It really works well, I think. Okay, again, like this area just doesn't quite feel right to me, so just gonna add a little bit more. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Okay, now let's work on this electrical wire here. So we want to start from the lamp, obviously, and I just am gonna bend some of these Now, ideally, we would have like something to be holding this up, but I don't think you're really going to see it too well. So I think that's going to be fine. And I'm going to kind of bend this over this way. Just imagining this kind of getting wrapped around this way. I think I pulled that way too long. Yes, I did. Let's actually just undo that. So then I'm just imagining that it kind of hang down a little bit, go up on the ceiling here, maybe go over this pipe, and then go around this way. And then we'll just kind of plug it into wherever. Okay, now don't worry about getting your line perfect right now. You really just want to kind of get the start and the end points and make sure that you have enough segments in here to work with it. So now we can go in here and we can kind of adjust this a little bit just so it looks like it's hanging a little bit better. And as always, just take your time with it. Don't rush. I think this would be closer to the wall. There we go, that's looking pretty good. And what I'm gonna do is, I should have just made a copy of this, but I'm gonna just browse to that asset, grab another wire, because I wanna use these in a bunch of areas. So I'm gonna go ahead and just make a copy so that I have another one out here. And I want to add one right here. So I'm just copying that location, pasting it there, and then just imagining that this is a wire powering this, whatever this is, this electrical box here. And we might do something else. Just have some more wires in here. So we can do something like that. And for right now, I'm going to just pull this out, make a few different segments. I think that should be good. And then I'm going to copy another wire over here. And now I'm going to just go in here and just kind of adjust these to where it looks like they're hanging down in some areas. Same thing with this one. And you notice that I didn't just make this and then just copy and paste it, because again, I want to just have these not look exactly the same. Because I don't want it to look repetitive. I don't want it to look like I literally just copied and pasted that. Okay. Now let's also, this big electrical box over here, it's obviously going to have a lot of wires coming out of it. So we'll do something like this. Just extend that a little bit. And maybe put a couple there, maybe one there, maybe another one over here. Something like that. It's looking pretty good. Okay. And I think this is looking pretty good. I really think we will just start lighting now. And then once we get things lit, we'll maybe adjust some more things, maybe add a few more things. So I'm going to take a quick break. I will be right back, and we will do some lighting, okay? All right, so let's talk a little bit about our lighting. Now, this is going to be a pretty basic lighting setup, but I'm going to do a couple of things to add a little bit of intrigue and kind of mystery to our scene. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open our door here. Now, I created a blueprint for this door, and I could make a separate video on how to do this. This is really not the point of that tutorial there, but I could do that later on if you guys want to see. This is just a very simple blueprint just to adjust the door opening angle here. So I'm just going to set it to something like 40 for right now, just to open it a little bit, but you could totally just drag this into your scene and manipulate it by just dragging that out. Now I can already see that my mesh that we were using here is just slightly coming through the floor there, so I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. Okay, so what I want to do is have a little bit of light in the background here. And what we might also need to do is just move all of this stuff out of the way for right now. So let's just highlight everything and just move it over. And I'm just going to build just a quick little room in that area, just so that we can block it in. We really only need just 3 walls in here. Should be fine. One more. Okay, something like that should be fine. And then let's also just add a roof to cover that last remaining part. And I'll also just add the beam in here, just kind of for continuity. Go back to that camera angle. And yeah, I think that looks good. So we can kind of go ahead and play around and just see what it would look like if we just drop a light in here. So let's just grab a point light. And you can already see that that already looks better. I mean, it's way too bright, but just giving us a little something in the background or behind that door just kind of creates a little bit more depth to the scene. Now, I think what would look kind of cool is to do something like a red light. That looks just a little bit more kind of mysterious and creepy looking. Let's do something kind of like that. I'm going to increase the source radius. And what I'm basically imagining this light is going to be shining from something like this. So we'll drag one of these out put it back here. So I'm just kind of imagining that this light, or the light that's coming here, is coming from that actual source. Now, since we're not really going to see that, it doesn't need to be, or doesn't have to be, you know, exactly where that is. If we were going to if we were going to use this room, we would want to focus on making sure that that looks a little bit better and looks a little bit more accurate. But since our main camera angle is just going to be from right here, this is going to be fine. I think the source radius is a little bit too big. Let's try 5. Yeah, something like that I think looks pretty good. Maybe even raising this up. Oh yeah, that looks even better. So I didn't really like this that we were getting right here. So just raising that up above that just creates that little bit of ambiance, which looks really good to me. Let's also lower this much lower. Let's try 1, maybe 0.5. Okay, that's looking better. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to turn off lumen, specifically global illumination. You can see our FPS already is dropping down to around 75 or so. If we go to our post-process volume, find global illumination, and turn lumen off, you can see our FPS instantly jumps up to 120. It's actually higher than that if we type t.max FPS, set it to something like 240. You can see we're getting 150 FPS. So as you can see, lumen is very heavy. Now, you can of course optimize for lumen. Lumen has its purposes and can be very useful, but I often prefer to not have lumen, specifically global illumination, turned on. If we do want a little bit of global illumination, you can see this scene is quite dark, especially in our shadows here. What we can do is that we can add a skylight. And make sure that real-time capture is turned off. And then if we go and do under source type, if we change it to SLS specified cube map, then we can choose something just like a gray texture, something like this. Now, this is obviously way too bright. So we can control the intensity here, maybe something like 0.1. And I think even that's a little too bright. Let's try 0.05. And then we can just see by toggling that on and off, that just gives us a little bit of ambient light to kind of fill in the shadows. So it's not just totally black in these areas where there's no light. Okay, so this is already looking quite a bit better. But we need to do something with this light, because this obviously should be kind of a light that is going downwards. And all we have in here right now is just this, this point light that is just spreading light out in all directions. So for the time being, I'm going to just turn this light off just by unchecking Effect World there. And I'm going to bring in a spotlight. And then I'm going to just copy the location of the lamp here. So shift right click and then shift left click to get that right in the center of that. And then I'm just going to bring it down to somewhere around there. And now we're just going to kind of play around with some values here. So with a spotlight, we have some different adjustments that we can make. We have an inner cone angle that is set to 0 right now, but we can spread that out. And if we spread that out all the way, it's also adjusting the outer cone, but then we can kind of bring that back to a little bit more concentrated. And then Our outer cone, we want to not go all the way because we don't want these really sharp shadows like this. Now we're getting that because the light is actually in the lamp here. It's hitting the mesh. One thing that we could do, we could turn the shadows off on the lamp. So if I click on the lamp and search for shadows, we could disable that. Then our light will actually shine through that. Now we have to be careful with that, especially if it's going to be, like if we were going to do something where we flip this up, this obviously wouldn't make sense because we're just shining light straight through that and it's not casting any shadows. But for our purposes here, I think that is going to be fine. Maybe we lower this outer cone angle just a little bit, just so it's not clipping this part right here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now, one thing I want to do is I also want to, I imagine this environment to be very, very dusty. So we can add some dust in here, but something else that will really help is just to add some fog. So if I search for fog and I find exponential height fog, I'm just going to click on that to drop that into our scene. And then under the exponential height fog, I want to find a volumetric fog and turn that on. And already you can see that is giving us a little bit of volume in that light there. Now we can intensify that in a couple of different ways. We can change the fog density. So it's at 0.02. Let's just go really high. Let's set it to something like 1. Now, obviously that's way too much, but we can see what's going on a lot better here. So let's back that off. Let's maybe try like 0.2. Okay, I actually think that's pretty good. The other thing that we can do to affect that is within our light here, there is the volumetric scattering intensity. So if we increase that, if we increase that to something like 4, that increases that the actual volumetric intensity of that light quite a bit. I really think it's good right where it is, so I'm just going to leave it there. But this is useful to know, especially if you have a light, like let's say I'm going to use this light. I'm going to turn this back on. Check effect of the world. And really all I'm going to do with this light is I'm going to turn the shadows off, and I'm going to set this to be very, very low, like 0.2 maybe. I really just want this to help me fill in some of the areas over here. We just toggle that in and on and off. You can see kind of what it's doing. But the other thing is you'll notice like we have this light here. Now, again, this is just kind of a construction light, so I'm not too worried about this right now. But if I did have this light in this environment and I didn't want to see kind of this glowing orb due to the volumetric scattering intensity, I can set that to 0 and then that will go away. And we still retain that volumetric fog that we have. And you can actually see, I'm not sure if that's showing up on the recording, but you can see that light, even though it's a very low intensity, you can still see the volumetric of that. So I'm going to go ahead and set that to 0 as well, so that that is not showing up. Okay. Now, the other thing that I think that we need to do here is, if we think about how this light would work, first of all, there's no bulb in here, which is kind of a problem. I don't know if there is, let's see. I don't think there are any bulbs, light bulbs from Quixel. Let me just search for bulb. Yeah, it doesn't look like there are any. So that's something that maybe you might have from a from an asset pack, or I believe I've even seen some of the free asset like CC0 assets. I believe I've seen a bulb before, like a light bulb. So you could probably find one there. Or if you're like me, you probably just have one laying in an asset pack that you've collected. But that is something to think about. You would, be able to look up and see a light bulb there. But the other thing is this interior should be quite a bit brighter, right? Now, we could fix that a couple of different ways. One way that we could do is we could add a point light in here, and we could do something like set this to pretty low intensity, maybe like 0.25. And then we're getting all of this spill that is coming out because we're not casting any shadows on this. First of all, we don't really need to cast shadows on our light, but this still doesn't make sense that there would be all this light that is out here. So what you could do is change the attenuation radius to where it is very, very low, maybe something like 15 or 25. 25 looks like it'll work. So already that looks quite a bit better. And honestly, I think I'm just going to leave it like that. We might make it a little bit brighter. Let's go to 0.5. I think that looks good. That looks more realistic. The other thing that you could do, and I will show you how to do this, you could edit the material here to add an emissive texture. Now, I don't really think that it would look appropriate on this. Where I do think it would look appropriate is for this light right here. And I will show you how to add that. So if you look at this asset, we only have one material, right? And if we want to add a light, for example, let's grab this red light. Just copy that. If we imagined that there's light pouring out from that actual lamp here, let me just copy the location so I can get it to be accurate. Now, even if we wanted to keep the shadows on here like this still just doesn't really look right. And then, if we tried to do something where we increased our source radius, that's very sensitive. Let me try doing like 25. Try to make that glow a little bit more. It just doesn't really look right, right? So what we can do is we could export this into something like Blender. We could go in, we could edit the geometry and add a second material on there. But you can actually do that in Unreal. So if we select this and if we go to the modeling tools, and then if we go down to the attributes, and then if we go to edit materials, this will allow us to add a material on here. So if we look under materials here, we can add an element, and then we want to change this to that element that we just added. Then what I can do, kind of have to be careful here. I'm going to be able to paint onto this. So let me actually go into unlit mode because it'll be way easier to see. But as you can see, I can paint on the actual triangles. And I want to paint over the area that is going to be lit up with an emissive. So this can be a little delicate, especially with an asset like this. So I'm just going to go kind of slow. And now if you mess up, if you do something like this, you can hold shift and undo, click to undo that, or paint over the areas that you need to undo. You can also change the size by using the bracket keys, or you can change it up here. Okay, so I'm just quickly going to try and get all of the areas here. This can be really useful. Well, it's often the most useful when you want to, at least I have found it most useful when you want to add an emissive texture to something like this. Or if you have something like like a desk lamp that has a shade on it or something like that, that would, you know, ideally be glowing, then this works really well to be able to add that on there. So once we paint over all the areas we want that new texture to be, we can then choose a texture. So I think I already have some emissive textures that I created. Let's just find something like, let's see, do I have a material instance? Am I... Maybe I don't. Oh yeah, here we go. Lamp emissive, so we can use that. So you could put whatever here for the material, because you can change this later. But the important part is we need to assign active material. Make sure that your active material is that material that you edited. Then we want to assign that, and then we want to accept. And now, if we go back to our lit mode, whoops. Now you will see that is actually glowing with an emissive. Now it's the wrong color. So all we need to do now, and also if you go over here, you'll see that we actually have a second material. So let's find that emissive material, which is just a super simple emissive material that I made. You can see what it is here if you need to make one yourself. But you can create that material, and then you can create a material instance from that. And I'm just going to duplicate the emissive material that we have here, put it on there, and then I'm going to open that material instance and change our color to be something more red. And we can also change the intensity here. So just something that feels pretty good. It's very hard to get it exactly where you want it, to where it doesn't look orange and doesn't look pink, but I think that looks pretty good. And then again, you can play around with the emissive intensity. Somewhere around there, I think looks pretty good. And I think right here, we'll just have this be maybe 0.5. And I really, I don't need the attenuation radius to be 1000. That's way too big. So I can bring that in to something more like maybe 250. It's pretty good. We can also optimize the scene a little bit better here. We don't need that attenuation radius to be so bright. Maybe 500 would be fine. And this light, we're not casting any shadows on this light, so this is not using a lot performance-wise, but we still can bring in our attenuation radius quite a bit. I do want it to fill up the entire room, so I'm going to set it at 600. And then similarly for this, maybe around 700 will be good. And let's, we haven't done this in a while. Let's first save. Let's just play and just make sure this is feeling good. You can get a little bit better feel of the environment. Just see how it looks. One thing that I see, I don't like how sharp the shadows are from this light. So what we can do is change the source radius. If we just make it a little bit larger, maybe 10, that should look a little bit better. There we go. That looks way better. And I do think this is a little bright. Oh yeah, we've got that set to 8. So let's try maybe 4, maybe 2. Again, I'm going back to my camera angles here. I think that's looking pretty good. This is kind of throwing me off a little bit. This, again, is just that construction light that we had. I'm going to keep it here, but I'm going to maybe change this to a red. And let's make that very low in intensity. Okay, I think that's looking really good. Now, one thing that I notice, it looks like we've lost our the intensity of our fog. I think it's because we lowered the intensity of this light a lot. So I'm gonna find our fog. I want to just increase the intensity. Let's try 0.5, maybe 0.7. That looks pretty good. You can also change things. If you change the height of this, that will change things. So if we set it to 1000, that adds a little bit more just throughout our entire scene, which looks pretty good. We are obviously going to continue our scene here and fix all of this. We're really just focusing on this first area here, but I think that's looking really good. Okay. Now, one other thing that I want to do here, I think it would look cool if we had some wire on the ground here. Just kind of some random wire that is kind of weaving through here. So let's see. I'm going to just drag out a couple of segments here. And just move this around. And yeah, I love the way that it's kind of being buried in some areas there. That looks great. And I might just make another copy of that. Whoops. And this is just like so many other things. It's just about the feel of it. We don't want things to look too repetitive. I think that looks pretty good, though. I really like the way it kind of goes under these, bits of rubble. We don't see the end of it, which is good, because that would look kind of weird. Okay, I think that is looking great. Again, our scene is doing great as far as optimization goes. I literally have another version of Unreal Engine open on my second screen as well, so we'll get even higher FPS in this scene. Now, we don't have a lot of lights in the scene, but compared to what we were getting just even a few minutes ago with Lumen turned on, this is a dramatic improvement. Now, the last thing that I think I want to do is just add a few little details in here. Actually, there are a few other larger assets that I still want to add in. Maybe some of these rocks. Just drag these in. Not worrying about where I'm putting these. I just want to get them in the scene so I can move them around. Whoops. Okay. So no rhyme or reason to this. Just put them somewhere, wherever it feels good. making sure that we don't have anything floating, nothing sticking through any walls or anything like that that would look weird. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now, the last thing I want to do, let's actually save. Let's go into foliage. And what we can do is, let me just see the size of some of this stuff. Yeah, so these are very small, which is good. Okay, so I think these three is what we'll use. I'm going to highlight these, drag these into the foliage here. And I'm going to just delete these out of the scene. Now, what we can do is we can actually paint these into our scene, just like we would with trees or grass or something like that. Now, actually, our density is pretty good. Let's lower that a little bit. Usually the density is way too high, but I think that is pretty good. So I'm just going to paint some things in here just to give it more shape. Now, we want to be careful here that I might not be able to really get it. Well, you can kind of see here. We want to be careful with things like this. And we want to be careful with things like this. So what you can do is paint it in first. And then we can just make a really small brush. Whoops. We need to erase. And then, oh, I guess I did erase that. And then we can just go in and anything that doesn't quite look right, we can fix up. So like this, just delete that. Anything that is on a mesh that just doesn't really feel like or feel right, that area just looks a little dense. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm also just going to grab a couple of more of these and just hide some of these areas. Oh, actually, oh, I thought this wire was the edge of that, but just the wire. So I just want to add any of these, or hide any of these areas to where it kind of looks like we were blending things in. And we can use these kind of assets for that, which is great to be able to do. Let's just grab maybe one of these, put that right here. This is what really makes your environments, or kind of takes them up to the next level, I think, is taking the time to really just hand place these small details sometimes really can make a big difference. Right in here, I think this looks a little artificial. Okay. I feel like we need a little something in here just to kind of break up some of the lines. Okay. All right. Guys, I think we are pretty much done. I am really happy with the way this looks. This is kind of exactly what I was wanting to go for in terms of look and feel. We could, of course, keep tweaking. If I was going to make this, you know, like an actual game environment, I would do a little bit more. I feel like we could use a little bit more things on the wall. The other thing that I didn't really get into is the decals. I can show that off a little bit as well. So in this in this unfinished building, we should have some decals, and we've got some dirt leaks, some grease, things like that. These are all going to be material instances. So if you want to see all of these, we can just sort by material instance. And we can take a look at what some of these are going to look like. So let's just take a look at this. If you've never used a decal before, it is basically exactly what it sounds like. It is just a kind of, think of it as almost like a sticker, but like a transparent sticker. So you can place these in your environment, and you just have to be careful because you will get some areas like this. So often what I do whenever I'm going to place a decal is I want to get the size right. So the main part is to reduce your depth or width here to where it's pretty low, something like that. And then you want to just very carefully kind of place it in here and just really be careful with corners. Because even if you put it on this, like you can kind of start to see this overlapping there. So just take your time like everything else. And even though that is not very visible there, this will add a lot to your scene to just add these things in. You can see it quite well here. So just adding that grunge will really kind of help break up the wall, especially in the corners, because oftentimes when you're using two different textures like this, it can really not quite look right. So, you know, we could do something like this, flip this around 180, and then bring this in, and then we could add one on this other wall. Let's rotate this. To where it's something like that. That is going to kind of blend that a little bit better. Now, you do have to be careful because you will see this on your character as you walk through. So in a case like this, you might want to, you know, adjust this to where it's more kind of like this. Okay. So I'm not going to go through and place all of those because that is a pretty time-consuming thing. You can really spend as much time on that as you want. But I think we are pretty much done with this. I'm going to call this part 1 of this environment because we are going to continue this hallway, and we're going to create a couple of little, just kind of little side rooms. And then I think we may even do... I think what would look cool is to have a set of stairs leading up here, and maybe we even do like a part 3. If you guys want to see this, let me know. We do a part 3 where we have like an actual landscape on top, and then I could show you guys how to kind of make an entrance to this. I think would look really cool. So I think that is going to be it for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know a lot of people wanted to see more environment tutorials. I love doing environment design tutorials like this. So if you guys have any, you know, particular environments you'd like to see me design, it is a little hard to think about environments that I can do with as many free assets as I can. I could obviously, you know, create some really cool environments with assets that I already have, or create the assets myself, but that is pretty time consuming, and I don't want you guys to not have access to a lot of these assets. But if you, like I said, if you do want to get access to this door, this bunker door that I created, you can check the link below to get that and support me. I also create assets and sell them on Fab, so you can check out those. I will have a new survival horror pack that will be coming out before too long. But more than anything, thank you guys so much for just being here. I hope you learned something. I hope this was helpful. If it was, be sure to leave me a comment. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. You can check out our Discord as well. Share your work. I love seeing what you guys do. So if you create this environment or a similar environment, I would love to see it. And until next time, I hope you guys have a wonderful day or night, and I will see you guys on the next tutorial. Take care, guys.